Three, two, one.
Here we go!
Hello guys, what is up and welcome back to the Sports Shift with me, Ian Marquez. Liverpool are champions. All the relegated teams are confirmed. One of the earliest times in Premier League history, but the race for Champions League is still ongoing and it's going to go right down to the wire. So much to talk about, so much still to play for. Let's get started. So we have Manchester City welcoming Wolves to the Etihad. Last time Wolves made the trip to Manchester, they were victorious over Manchester United. Sarabi hitting a very impressive free kick. However, they're traveling to inform Manchester City this time. Wolves being the most informed team in the Premier League with 6 wins in a row. And can they continue? Can they go to the season leading 7 wins in a row? That hasn't been done by the likes of Liverpool or Manchester City or Newcastle or any of the big boys yet this season. Well, I don't think so. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne is on his farewell tour, Marmoush is in fine form, and City have slowly started to shore things up at the back. They're getting players back, the likes of Akanji might feature. Vardiol has been very solid along with Ruben Diaz. So, I mean, I don't see it. Wolves were playing a bit of a weaker opposition, the likes of Southampton and Leicester and whatnot. And while they were playing really good football, the likes of Cunha was in impressive form. Even when Cunha was out, Wolves were winning. But I do think you have to take into account the quality of the opposition. And I think they will be handed their first defeat in quite a while at the hand of Manchester City. I do think it will be low scoring, but I do think City edge out Wolves, maybe 1 or 2-0. They have Aston Villa welcoming Fulham. Fulham are such an inconsistent team. They have the quality to play anybody on their day, but we just never know which Fulham we're going to get. They have a lot of industrious players, the likes of Iwobi. He will do a lot of running, cover a lot of ground, but sometimes they're lacking a bit of quality. Muniz is out for the season, and Raul Jimenez up top just hasn't been getting the job done. They have been getting goals from the likes of Sessi on the wing, Emil Smith-Rowe behind the striker, maybe Iwobi chips in once in a while. In terms of the wingers, I mean, Traore is there, but Willian is there. I don't really see where the goals are coming from for Fulham right now. They edged out Southampton recently, and it really should not have been that close. I think Aston Villa bounced back after a disappointing FA Cup defeat to Palace. I think they bounced back and have a dominant display. Watkins is in fine form. He's a little bit unfortunate to be battling with Rashford because he was in really good form, but Rashford is out for the foreseeable future. And I think Watkins is in with a goal, and I think Villa win comfortably. I'm looking at 3-0, maybe 4-0. Well, Everton in their second last game at Goodison Park, they'll be welcoming Ipswich, already relegated Ipswich. And David Moyes has really shored up the defence. They've been a lot more solid at the back, but they still have been unable to find goals. Beto less than convincing. Maybe Armando Broja can come in and once again return, maybe find a little bit of goal scoring form. But I just don't know where the goals are going to come from when it comes to Everton. I mean, they have Ndiaye, who has a few tricks up his sleeve. He has a little bit of quality, but it's so inconsistent. You never know what we're going to get. The likes of Doucouré running from midfield. He's probably one of the more consistent players in that side. It's just, I'm a little unsure. I mean, Ipswich always have the chance to score. Their defense is usually pretty poor, so I do think there will be a lot of chances. And I do think Everton have slightly more quality, so I think they edge it. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's a very low scoring game or even a low scoring 0-0 draw. Leicester welcoming Southampton, the battle of the bottom. This game is very interesting in the sense that it's so difficult to predict because Southampton have been scoring out of late. Leicester chipped in with a couple goals here or there. They actually had a pretty impressive performance against Liverpool and were unlucky not to score in that game. A little bit of controversial decisions there. That being said, let me know what you guys think about this game. I mean, I think it can go either way. As you saw in the replay fixture, Leicester were able to overcome Southampton away from home 3-2. I can also see a high scoring game in this one. Hermansen will be out, so they'll have a different keeper starting this game. Onacho will be back for Southampton. He has been one of their bright sparks this season, along with Mateus Fernandes. So we'll see where the goals will come from. This game is impossible to call. I would just edge Leicester because they're at home. They are, in fact, above Southampton in the table for a reason. So let's see what we get. We have Arsenal hosting Bournemouth. This game is interesting because we expect heavy rotation from Arsenal. They are 1-0 down in the Champions League and they will be traveling to France to play. They're 1-0 down in the Champions League. They will be traveling to Paris to play PSG. PSG are in fine form, but a little birdie told me that Ousmane Dembele has received a thigh injury and he may be doubtful. That will give Arsenal all the hope they need, and I guarantee they will be having a large amount of rotation in this side, resting anybody that has any chance of entry, anybody of any sort of importance. The only players that will play are probably the likes of Saliba, Raya, maybe one of the midfielders in Rice Partey, but they'll be resting so many people they won't even care. They're pretty much locked into second place in the league. Liverpool have been confirmed champions. So what's the point in risking the players? Saka, if he gets any minutes, I'd be very surprised. Maybe he gets 10 minutes at the end just so test it out, keep things fresh. But I expect heavy rotation and that will play into Bournemouth's hands. Bournemouth have also been very inconsistent as of late. They had a 1-0 draw against Manchester United last time out. And the red card to Evan Nilsson early in the game kind of changed the theme of the game. They went very defensive. They didn't create too many chances. United had a lot of chances, were pretty wasteful, but eventually got the goal in the end thanks to Rasmus Højlund. I think Bournemouth defended pretty well. They were attacking, they were playing early through balls in behind the defence, which were causing United a lot of problems. I think those could also cause Arsenal some problems. And I can definitely see Bournemouth coming away with something in this game. Just because their home team would make me lean to Arsenal, but it's still up in the air because we don't know what Arsenal side we're going to get. Brentford are hosting Manchester United. Similarly, Manchester United sit in 14th place in the Premier League table. Everything now rides on the Europa League. They had a very comfortable 3-0 win in Spain against Athletic Bilbao, and I think they rest everybody. Anybody of sort of importance, anybody with any little niggles or chance of an injury will not play on Sunday in the Premier League. They will be focusing just on that return leg at Old Trafford against Bilbao, and maybe they go back to Spain in a couple of weeks for Europa League final. I guess we'll see. Bournemouth will be licking their lips for this fixture because the likes of Mbeumo, Wissa in fine form, even Shad on the wing, they know they're going to be playing a second string Man United, and even the first string United, if you look at this record, has been dreadful. So I think Bournemouth will be scoring quite a few goals in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if Bournemouth win the likes of 3-1. Maybe if we show United some respect, 2-1. But I definitely think Bournemouth win this game comfortably. And I don't think United care. Bruno Fernandes, I doubt he plays. If he plays, he'll get 10 minutes. You're looking at the likes of Eriksen, Mount, maybe Shaw to regain some fitness. I doubt they risk Ahmad. And maybe Chido Obi starts the game. It's going to be a lot of the second string players resting, rotating, and Brentford are looking to sneak into the top half of the table. So I expect a comfortable win after a very commanding win against Nottingham Forest in midweek. Brighton hosting Newcastle. Now this is interesting because, as you know, Newcastle start this weekend of action in third place in the Premier League. They are fighting for a Champions League spot once again, and they had a little blip in their form against Aston Villa, but they're back to winning ways. It was a very, very comfortable win against Ipswich. They missed so many chances. They could easily have been a bigger win, but the likes of Isak was missing a few chances. He was able to get a penalty in the end. That being said, if you look at their record, they have never won away to Brighton. Brighton won the return fixture earlier on in the season, and Brighton seemed to dominate this fixture, whether it's a win or a draw. Newcastle have had a lot of difficulty against Brighton in recent weeks, and although current form will say otherwise, I don't think this game will be as easy as many expect. I know that Brighton have been conceding quite a few goals in recent weeks, even to the hands of Leicester, who have been very, very poor when it comes to goal scoring. But I just think that this game is going to be a bit of a curveball, and I think Brighton are going to be good enough to fight for a draw. They have the likes of Van Heck back, who will be a huge addition to their back line. And they'll be without João Pedro, I believe, as he's still suspended. But Newcastle, although they've been creating quite a few chances for the likes of Barnes and Murphy, Isak has been a little shaky in terms of his form, and they'll be without Joe Linton now, who's probably out for the rest of the season. I think that could hurt them defensively, and I can see Brighton scoring. As a result, I think this game ends in probably a 1-1 draw. We have West Ham hosting Spurs. I think this game is just goals all over it. I mean, Spurs once more will be having rotation in preparation for their Europa League second leg away to Bodo Glimt. They had a comfortable 3-1 win. Bit disappointed to concede late and give Bodo Glimt any sort of hope, but I expect rotation. They do also have quite a lot of injuries and doubts, like some Maddison, Solanke, doubtful, and they will definitely not be risked. Son is out, so you're looking at the likes of Richarlison. Maybe Matthias Tau gets a few minutes, but also looking at heavy rotation. West Ham, although they're confirmed in the Premier League, they will want to climb from 17th in the table, and they will want to get at least 1 or 2 more wins on their belt before finishing this season. Jared Bowen has been in fine form. He's working with the likes of Mohamed Kudus. Evan Ferguson is back available after they faced their parent club. And, you know, it's still interesting because West Ham do have quality players, but the results have not been showing the signs. I mean, in the return fixture, Spurs absolutely obliterated Leicester. And even though there'll be heavy rotation, I do expect Spurs to come out victorious in this one. Now we have Chelsea at home to Liverpool. Liverpool are confirmed champions. So once a side is confirmed champions, we always expect that their performance comes down a few levels. You know, it's hard to keep up that high quality of performance for such a long time. Chelsea are fighting for a Champions League spot. They currently sit in 5th, but anything can happen. Nottingham Forest can climb out that spot. It's anyone's take, and Chelsea have some very difficult fixtures, so they'll be looking to get points wherever they can. And can they get points against Liverpool? I think they can. We all know that Liverpool may have a lot of rotation. Maybe Chiesa to get some minutes, Nunes gets a little more minutes, Salah and Diaz probably only play like 50 to 60 minutes as opposed to 90 in previous weeks. So they will have some changes here and there, but it's still Liverpool. They'll still be playing quality football. Arne Slot will still set a high standard. And Chelsea, while they've been better defensively, the goals have started to dry up. Cole Palmer, I can't even tell you the last time he scored. And Nkunku is a doubt. Sanchez came over with a knock in the Conference League, so still a few questions about Chelsea. I do think this game can go either way. Probably will lean towards a draw, but it is pretty up in the air. And to round it off, you have Crystal Palace hosting Nottingham Forest. Both teams played a little late. I mean, Crystal Palace with a very dominant display against Aston Villa. Nottingham Forest with a bit disappointing performance against Brentford. They'll be looking to get back to winning ways and fight for that Champions League spot. They currently sit outside the Champions League, so they definitely need to get some points on the board. Palace will be riding that high since they played Aston Villa in the FA Cup. And although they're away from home, I expect Forest to get back to winning ways. They do have favourable fixtures, and Palace's form in the league has not illustrated their performance in the Cup. So I know it was a commanding win, but I would expect their performances to dip once more as they did in the league. They've been conceding quite a few chances and goals in the league. And I mean, Elanga is back. He looks pretty sharp. He had quite a few shots, unfortunate not to score. Chris Wood is also back in the mix. I think Forest carries some weight. I think people still, even to this day, underrate Forest, even though they've had such a good season. And I think Forest win this one pretty comfortably. I'm looking like a 2-0, maybe a 3-1. So those are my Premier League predictions. You can let me know what you guys think. Am I crazy? Am I making any sense at all? I mean, mostly I'm going for the home team to win. Southampton, Leicester, I think can go anyway. Bournemouth, I mean, we're just expecting heavy rotation from Arsenal. They did win the return fixture, but that was due to an early Saliba red card. And since Evan Nilsson's red card has been rescinded, I wouldn't be too surprised if Bournemouth are able to steal 2 points. Semenyo's been in really good form with an impressive goal against Man United recently. Brentford playing a second string Man United side. They're struggling to find form in the league at all. I think this prediction for Brighton to hold on to a draw against Newcastle is a bit surprising, a bit out there, but I don't know. I'm just expecting something from Brighton this week. Spurs game can go anyway, but I mean, I think they just have too much quality. West Ham are 17th for a reason, and Chelsea drawing against Liverpool. I mean, the goals for Chelsea are just dried up, and we don't know what sort of Liverpool performance we're gonna get. So let me know, what do you guys think? Am I crazy? Do these predictions make any sort of sense? Let me know. So the only thing we have left to play for in the Premier League is Champions League. First, Liverpool. Second, Arsenal. Those are pretty much tied up. Now we have 3 more spots, 3rd to 5th, and we have 5 teams. Obviously, that can't work. 2 teams will have to miss out. Here we have a look at the fixtures and a look at the current Premier League table. Let me know who do you guys think are going to get those last 2 Champions League spots. Right, we have Newcastle, Man City and Chelsea are in the driving seat, with Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa sitting on the outside. As you can see, Chelsea and Villa definitely have some of the hardest fixtures. Man City and Forest, I think they have the easiest fixtures. I think City probably win the rest of their games. Forest win 3 out of 4. So that puts the pressure on the other teams. I think Newcastle will get just enough to get over the line. And I think the last spot will be between Nottingham Forest, Chelsea and Aston Villa for that 5th spot. I think Nottingham Forest claim it. I mean, they just have that little edge over Aston Villa. Aston Villa were very, very unlucky against Man City to lose that game late on. But that being said, they have some pretty difficult fixtures ahead. I know that they probably have the quality to get the job done. But if you also look at the goal difference, they're so far behind Chelsea and even Nottingham Forest that they'll need to gain 4 points on both of those teams to have a chance. Can that be done? I don't know. I think Chelsea drop points. Maybe Forest do, but the fixtures just don't look like it favors Aston Villa. So let me know what you guys think. I'm going with Man City, Newcastle, and Nottingham Forest to round up the Champions League spot. So, as usual, we look at some stats before the weekend's action. Thanks to Rob T, FPL on Twitter. We're going to look at our projections, and what do you know? Man City expected to go ham against Wolves. They've been in great form, scoring goals. Wolves results do flatter them a little bit. If you look at the clean sheet odds, we have Everton at the top. I mean, they're playing a weak Ipswich side. Then we have the likes of Manchester City at home to Wolves. I know Wolves are in good form, but Man City's defense has been pretty solid in recent weeks. And then we have Aston Villa against Fulham. Pretty surprising, but as I mentioned earlier, we don't know where the goals are going to come from. Arsenal is always respected when it comes to their defense, but I think that number is a little generous considering how much rotation we can expect from Arsenal. Brentford, on the other hand, we expect a lot of rotation from Man United, so it definitely doesn't fasten them to have such a high chance of a clean sheet. And Crystal Palace against Nottingham Forest, I think, is a bit surprising. I do think Forest carry a little more threat than people expect. But, I mean, they're considered to have a high chance. You can't really go against the odds. It's science after all. When it comes to the goals, as I told you, Man City at the top. Brentford, we definitely expect Brentford to go crazy against United. Everton, I think that's a bit surprising. I don't know where the goals are coming from for Everton, but they're projected to have almost 2 goals against Ipswich. Then Aston Villa, Chelsea, West Ham, Arsenal, Newcastle, they're all capable of scoring goals. I mean, this all depends on the quality of their opposition. but I can definitely see each of these teams scoring at least one goal, if not two, in their games. So let's look at the best team from each player who will have the highest chance of scoring. I mean, obviously Newcastle against Brighton. When it comes to Newcastle, Isaac leads the line. He kicks the penalties. He has the most chances. He should have had easily more than one goal against Ipswich, but he's really been in some questionable form. That being said, he does top the charts behind Marmoush, who is obviously in fine form playing against Wolves. I would have set both of them to have a high chance of scoring. Following that, we have Watkins against Fulham. Vardy, I'm very surprised he's up there. I mean, I know they're playing Southampton, but Leicester just don't create too much. I don't even know if Mavididi is fit. I know that he was a questionable to return, so I guess we'll see about that. Boya against Ipswich. Likewise, I don't know about Everton's goal scoring ability. However, if you look past that, Mbeumo and Wissa against Man United have a very high chance of scoring. I don't take that lightly. I think both of them will be able to grab a goal, so keep that in mind. As I tell you each week, you look at the stats, projections, you look at the top player to score, and I think you can make a very reasonable guess about who's going to get the goals. So against Fulham, I definitely expect Ollie Watkins, who's in fine form. He looked really good against PSG, he looked good against City, was very unlucky not to score in that game. And I think he's in amongst the goals against Fulham. Similarly, Marmoush, who is probably going to lead the line against Wolves. I know Erling Haaland is back in training, but I think it's a little bit too soon before Haaland features. So I can see Marmoush getting a lot of chances. He'll get a lot of service from Kevin De Bruyne. Can easily see him scoring in this game. And Luis Diaz has just been in fine form. I know there'll be questions about his minutes and maybe a little bit of rotation from Arne Slot, but against Chelsea, I still see him able to score, maybe on the counter attack. When it comes to yellow cards, I know they're going to be playing a second string Arsenal team, but the way Bournemouth attack, if you can get through the press, playing on the counter, there are a lot of chances that they'll have recovering runs from the likes of Lewis Cook, so no surprise that I have him there for a yellow card. Alexis McAllister, he's always making tackles, making early tackles, leading the press, tracking back. He's always in and amongst it. He has so much grit. I can definitely see him racking up those fouls, and they might not be too egregious tackles, but just the amount of fouls he'll accumulate, I can see him picking up a yellow card. And Moises Caicedo in the same fixture. I mean, what can I say? When Marc Cucurella flies, the midfield is always usually very feisty in these games, so I can see him picking up one as well. When it comes to the full-time result, well, Brentford against United, I already spoke about that one. A high-scoring win for Brentford. Aston Villa against Fulham, I'm pretty confident in Villa's ability these days. Man City against Wolves, I think City have found their form and they'll be able to cling on to a Champions League spot. And I think Nottingham Forest get back to winning ways against Palace. Let me know what you guys think about that one. Now, if you come to some best bets, well, I have Brentford to win and I expect it to be a high scoring game, so I have over 2.5 goals. Similarly, I have Man City to win. Both teams are able to create chances. Wolves usually leave the bat open and they can also create, so I think this one goes over 2.5 goals as well. And West Ham versus Spurs, both defenses are dreadful, so I can expect both teams to score, even though Spurs will be having quite a bit of rotation. If you look at the picks last week, the goal scorers, the best bets was a clean sweep. Let's see if we can hit it again. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Let me know if we're going to jump on any of my picks, if my predictions make any sense. Otherwise, enjoy this weekend's games and see you guys later.